Finally, for some real, tangible news to share.
Hello, hi, this is yours truly, Clarice T, for the 6th episode of this podcast series. Today is the 15th of June, 2023, and I just heard a very somber news this morning. Lola Ising, rest in peace. She's the youngest of the sisters of my grandmother, Pamphila Adormeo. The formerly Miss Crescencia Adormeo has passed on. She has been staying with my cousin, Kuya Junjun, and I hope that our family will be able to send a representative. Also, another alarming news. I am at the official Twitter account of the Department of Science and Technology, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, the PHIVOLCS, is the Service Institute of the DOST for monitoring and mitigation of volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and tsunami. There had been an earthquake around 10:19 a.m. today, magnitude 6.2, at the west of Calatagan, Batangas. Not the west, but in Calatagan. That's the center of the earthquake. And for your information, since I'm here in Quezon Province and we're part of the Calabarzon, 5 provinces, and Batangas it can be an hour and a half to 3 hours away from Quezon Province and from where I am here in Lucena City. So keep safe. Thankfully, we didn't experience any tremor or any shaking, though we are near the epicenter. And on to this podcast. This is especially relevant to my friends and to the people who I know personally. Guys, have you ever received anything from a Clarissa Talaga Garcia and got confused by it, whether it was a letter or a chat or messages about her person and business? Well, it could have been from personal notes about this Clarice or update about her company. The company is about to open the files to the regulators and other proceedings for the intellectual property rights and the consolidation of the legal status for all the people the company is connected with directly, and that includes by default her family. This is in the present tense, which also covers the soonest possible future. If you have ever worked with and or ever worked for the person directly connected to Clarissa T. Garcia Consultancy Services, aka Talaga Information and Business Consultancy or TIBC, before and after 2004 and just didn't know it because you were not aware or couldn't confirm that this Clarice is the same Clarissa Talaga Garcia of this podcast, listen in. One of the reasons you had not been interested to hear about her is probably because her topic of conversations had seemed to come from the pretend world of the sicko. Well, kindly disregard the non-disclosure agreement if that's the case. This is just the good faith, the first refusal option, FRO, that will legally bind her and her family and successors. The third person POV will become first person as party of legal contracts in various industries and jurisdictions. So this is a must. Any mention of name should have this non-disclosure agreement, whether as a return parcel, because even acknowledgement of receipt of this non-disclosure agreement is a legally binding turn-off event. And on that fateful day, which narrative would have prevailed? against the onslaught of challenges in the preliminary proceedings. Some of them are happening at this time. Each of the personal decision is going to be respected, and also from my corner are those professionals who will take up the mantle in my absence for whatever reason. With the frozen chicken out of the fridge to defrost, and that's our lunch, and while waiting for the washing machine to finish, I'd like to continue the discussion of this very important topic, consuming Filipino masses. I don't think the discussion about intellectual property and the usage of brand, trademark, goodwill, and logo will strike as too technical or too out there for the average Filipino. This is thanks to Eat Bulaga. This is a noontime show that has been airing on free TV for the past 44 years. Talk about being institution and talking about the milestone that other production aspire. This will set the standard, actually. So you cannot go down the street level conversation more directly and speedily than the discussion about the merits of the possible legal case between these prominent camps. And I said that singular, but the truth is it's in plural form, as in legal cases. Possibly these will affect other established noontime shows and programming where Filipinos are tuned in. There's no way to avoid being educated and informed, especially if this matter reaches the Supreme Court. But I'm going ahead. I also tune in to the basic elements that are causing the possible legal positions in conflict with each other. In fact, in my succeeding courtesy call, I will bear the letter of introduction, taking into account the dates of my earliest documents. Bearer of this letter first came to the office of City Mayor of Lucena City on 2004 as the writer and publisher of registered books in the National Library of the Philippines. And that has not changed in the intervening years. From a handful of documents, I am able to add to that one or two official papers in my position. And not only that, I am able to continue the brand, the logo, the trademark, improved in my resume, the standard letterhead that I've used, which I was able to submit to various companies and offices. I am able to continue. So the continuation had taken place along with the legal publication. It has an equivalent in the assessment who the owner or the legitimate user of a brand or logo, because they're all happening in the public domain. In the form, there is a questionnaire there. Are you already using that? Paraphrasing, by the way. Are you already using that logo or that trademark? How long have you been using that? The point of origin and the extent of the usage of the brand or the logo displayed in the public for public patronage, they matter in the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. So as the writer and publisher of registered books, some copies of them were deposited at the National Library of the Philippines using the process to be able to get issued with ISBN, International System of Book Numbering. The intellectual property rights also come from being a producer and music artist of works both originally mine,
I've created them, and those derived out of the works of others. So there was an enhancement and fair use and permission applied for. So whether that permission has resulted in favorable assent or that are a license to use, that is also going to be considered in the final analysis. These undertakings are the attributes or the markings of someone who is an industry player. So whether the economic success has been reached and whether there are oppositions to that claim, or anyone who will point out how dismally the economic benefits to me, whether that can be taken against my ownership, against my viability, that will be decided on in the coming days. I must admit, in getting here, in reaching this point in time, the intervening years had not been conflict-free. In fact, there had been arguments and constraints in the budget causing hotheads, causing us to further cut down or slash our budget for some essentials. In that kind of mindset, it couldn't be avoided how, for instance, because I am maintaining this position in the industry, the niche that I have already achieved needs cost in order to be maintained, and it had caused friction. But those debates and those exchanges, I can consider them as a badge of having personal interest. So in the final analysis, those conflicts which differentiates or categorized those with personal interest to those bystander, they will matter. After each argument, after each debate, where I've managed to make it up, like I would have to do double duty because we cannot pay for a regular housekeeper or for any kind of help that I would have to assume I have to do. So these things will be part of the discussion. Why I would say that any success that I have not reached this far on my own, and that I am so looking forward, not just willing, but I am actually looking forward to sharing the harvest with the family with whom I had to argue with, to debate with, and to make concessions and to haggle all through the years. Everyday decision making happening, which could result either in agreement or disagreement within the family, and how we manage to patch things up by concession, by resolving, personal loans to each other, by resolving the delay in payment to each other, just for us to come up with the household bills, the tuition fee for the kids, and then having to pay for the nanny, and then I have to do the double duty just so that we could scrimp and we would remain standing at the end of each monthly payments. So the next step for me will not be delving on the relational or personal relationship with my family and with my relatives, because we have reached that kind of independence and respecting the personal decisions that each of us has expressly or implicitly made. It is my prerogative as owner of these intellectual properties to seek the jurisdiction of the functioning Intellectual Property Office of the United States of America to prevent being trafficked into an identification that's not mine. And this identification has the economic aspect of my life, not relational. Somehow, it could affect relationally and some personal interactions, but mainly the economic aspect of it. The identification that I have repeatedly disowned and will continue to disown. Let me rephrase it this way. The identification that I had repeatedly disowned that would not and that could not possibly come to court to petition for recognition as the Clarissa M. Talaga Garcia for lack of credible proof of being and having should now be scrutinized in a more formal proceeding. From 2004 up to this time, I continue to claim that I own assets under my name and that these assets fall under the following general descriptions. 1. Real property of Clarissa M. Talaga Garcia. 2. Personal property of Clarissa M. Talaga Garcia. 3. Intellectual property of Clarissa M. Talaga Garcia, and so on. Cash in bank, bankable brand name in the publication industry, bankable brand name in the music industry, goodwill, positive credit rating, defensible legal position of an experienced business owner that can be, passed on to successors and heirs. So whatever needs to be done for the process of consolidation to move forward, all roads lead to one path, the public domain, where the benefits of ownership had come from and will continue to yield economic advantages by having that right recognized and established. So in the examples being provided by Itbulaga, so either the Tape Incorporated or by the TVJ group, we would know which claim to the brand, to the trademark, will have the final legitimacy. So in my case, the very reason that I had come up with some kind of logo, even if it's laughable, it looked like a tonsil. Any kind of trademark and copyright, why it had been so ad nausea, diba? Why I kept on writing them as my letterhead, because they should be public knowledge to distinguish the economic rights of the originator or creator or assigned entity that will benefit from the public patronage. And the time frame will also matter. Like, possibly it can happen that within this time frame where there is so much confusion and where there is so much technical hurdle for me, I may not be viable. Contracts with me are bound to be problematic, but this will not always be the case. And eventually, after the hurdles, the ownership will truly matter. And with that, I'd like to say, please tune in to episode 7 for more important insights about intellectual property and about, the recourse open to similarly situated. Till then, bye. So if I'm real and if my documents are truly registered in the local regulatory offices, then my hold over this runaway AKA, or also known as Clarissa, is truly illegal.